That looked like a Pacers game from last year. Pacers going to Dallas, beat the reigning Western Conference champions, get back to 3-4, and two players in particular shined. We have so much to discuss on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, y'all? Happy Tuesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes, and today, so much to discuss from a Pacers win over the Dallas Mavericks on the road. Big win for the Pacers after a very crummy Friday night in New Orleans. They get back on track against the Mavs, and dare I say, their most comfortable win of the season. Wasn't that comfy, but kind of was. We'll discuss that. We'll talk about how they did this on the backs of Tyrese Haliburton and Myles Turner. Their new center rotation, what they were able to do today with who they had available. Lots to take away from that. So much to get to from this win. One that the Pacers really, really needed. I have a desk light again. Stephanie White's the coach of the Fever. She got introduced today. I did a lot. I'm hyped up. I have a lot to talk about. Let's talk about Pacers Mavs. So, let's start with what I think is the most important takeaway from this basketball game. Many of you will say, Myles Turner was excellent, and he was, and we will talk about that. And many other of you will say, hey, that was the most Tyrese Haliburton's looked like Tyrese Haliburton this year, and I agree, and we'll talk about that. That all matters a lot. Everybody stepped up at some point in this game and did something that mattered. Here's what I think was the most important thing that happened. For 48 minutes, the Pacers looked like the Pacers and played well for 48 minutes, right? They beat the Celtics. That's insanely impressive. For 40 minutes of that game, they looked pretty good. For 8 minutes, they looked like they didn't know how to play basketball at all, right? And then they won in overtime. In Detroit, they were not good at all until the fourth quarter. I mean, they were okay, but they came back late to get it done. And against the Sixers, they tripped all over themselves a lot. And against the Magic, they tripped all over themselves a few times. Against the Pelicans, they had 10 dreadful minutes, right? Like every game, even if they reached like 30 to 35 minutes of good play, it was never a complete basketball game where for 48 minutes you said, yes, that was a team that looks good, that's playing together, that had a plan, that executed the plan, and it worked the whole time. Tonight, or last night when you're listening, the Pacers for 48 minutes never slowed down or let up, right? You can look at the game chart that shows the lead. I think the Pacers had stretches where their defense was worse than others, certainly in this game. The Mavs' biggest lead was 2. They would take a lead, and immediately the Pacers would answer. Like the next possession. I don't think the Mavs had the ball and the lead ever. They might have had the ball and tied a few times, but I don't think they had the ball and the lead ever, even though they were ahead a few times in this game. The Pacers had answers. They never let Dallas go on a big run. Their offense was consistent all night, so the Pacers were never ahead by a bunch, right? Their biggest lead was 13, and it was super early in the game, but they were consistently ahead like 5 to 10, comfortably. And every time the Mavs would get it to 5 or 4, Pacers would score 4 points in a row. Right. And so comfortably all night, they found ways to get it done. Here's why they were able to do that. There's a couple reasons, I suppose. But to me, the thing that stood out the most, and this partially is because Derek Lively wasn't playing for the Mavs, and partially because the Pacers really, really, really stuck to this focus all game. The Pacers were getting to the rim. They were going to drive and get to that paint, or they were going to throw it to a post player who had a size advantage, and they were going to get to the rim and score. 76 points in the paint for the Pacers in this game. 76. That's excellent. They will win a lot of games if they are able to get 76 points in the paint every night. And that was a focus on drives. Haliburton was getting there. We'll talk more about that later. I think a lot of you want me to focus on that, and I have a take. We'll get to that. TJ McConnell got to the rim. Andrew Nembhard got to the rim a few times. Ben Mathurin got to the rim quite a bit in the second half of this game. Ben Mathurin really came alive in a very meaningful way. And the other way the Pacers dominated the rim is something they were very good at and was particularly relevant in this game when they would get down and get those early seals because the Mavs switched, because the Mavs defense wasn't very good at picking up cutters, because they got ahead in transition. They were looking for the big on the switch. And Turner did a good job with this. He did a good job with a lot of things, but he did a good job with that. Pascal Siakam did a good job with that. Obi Toppin did a good job with that. He always does. That's like one of Obi's things, I think, this year, or something I've seen progress from him with. And that allowed them to finish at the rim as well. So the Mavs situation in this game was they did not have Derek Lively. They started Daniel Gafford. And Daniel Gafford is like kind of bruising. He's really efficient. He's a good rebounder. But Myles Turner spread him out, and Myles Turner shot really well in this game. He did a lot of really good things in this game. And so Gafford kind of struggled with him, right? So they tried some other stuff. PJ Washington played a bunch. He played some 5. And he was kind of off on offense, and he wasn't quite good enough in the post defending Turner. And Dwight Powell, they tried him for 7 minutes, and that had a lot of the same problems as Gafford. And Najee Marshall was the center at times. That was probably the Mavs' best option, but that was because he was doing good on offense, not necessarily on defense, right? They didn't have an answer for Turner with their size options. They didn't have Derek Lively. Maxi Kleba doesn't touch the floor. He was out as well. So they didn't have enough size to guard 2 interior threats for the Pacers. That's how they were able to get those seals. And then the guards all did a great job punishing. So 76 points in the paint to me is where I would start and say that's why the Pacers look the most Pacers-y. For 48 minutes, they never had a stretch where I thought, man, their offense looks just terrible. They're not generating good shots. They're not flowing very well. They're not cutting. They don't look right. Like the whole game they did. And I think that's the testament to that is 7 guys in double figures, right? All the vets in the rotation in this game reached double figures or like had a good game, reached their averages, shot 50%. Of the guys who reached double figures, Andrew Nembhard was 4 for 9. So that's 44%. Everyone else was over 50% from the field. In fact, Ben Mathurin, 7 for 13 was the next worst of that crew. Everybody was very efficient, getting the shots they wanted, getting where they wanted, and that helped the Pacers get it done too. Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker were both 1 for 3. They're not veterans. They were not up to the standard they've set this season, although Jarris Walker hitting a 3 and having 5 rebounds was very important. But everybody contributed. Everybody got to the rim and made the Pacers play their way. That, to me, is the biggest takeaway from this game, and how they did it primarily was that. Rim pressure was huge. Massive thing for the Pacers in this game. 18-point advantage in points in the paint against a team that's pretty good at driving and disrupting the game flow. The other thing the Mavericks have is they have Luka, who's very good at getting to the line and breaking up the flow of the game with free throws. He took 15 in this game, and even that didn't slow the Pacers down. They kept running. They kept playing their way. They were good in transition. Once again, I think since the Magic game, they've looked more like themselves from a tempo perspective. And in this game, they continued to build off of that. 26 fast break points. So the paint pressure, paint to great, as the Pacers like to say, and all that stuff, it all felt very Pacers-y. And that is how they were able to play 48 minutes of the best basketball they've played this season and the most consistent game they've played this season. Now, to take that a step further, they also cleaned up some crucial mistakes that have been plaguing them. 95 shots in this game, right? That's a big Pacers thing, to get up a lot of shots. They were able to do that because they won the rebounding battle pretty handily. 46-38, an 8 rebound advantage. The only one Mavericks player had more than 1 offensive rebound in this game, and it was Kyrie, which is just like the ball bounces to him, right? Like he's not a rebounding kind of guy, and he played 40 minutes. Luka played over 40 minutes, right? The Mavs were going for this game, and the Pacers kept up. They did well on the glass. Turner's best rebounding game of the season by far. As Eddie referenced yesterday when we were talking about how the Pacers will manage without their centers, Ben Mathurin was great on the glass with 7. Obi Toppin had 6. Pascal Siakam had 6. A lot of guys chipped in. Jarris Walker with 4. Tyrese Haliburton with 4. Right? That all mattered in a great way. They needed to be better at rebounding. They've had a couple games in a row where they've looked better and making progress this game. Their best yet. The other one was turnovers. They actually lost the turnover battle, but they only had 9. That's fine. 9 is good. That's 2 per quarter, right? Basically, 1 over that. Everybody had 2 or less in this game. Tyrese Haliburton, I accept, will have 2 in a lot of games because of how often he has the ball and how much he passes, right? That's fine. They can survive with 9. And so doing well in the possession game, shooting over 40% from deep, dominating in the paint, playing with tempo all night, that looked like the Pacers of last year. And they got good performances from a lot of the guys who made the Pacers great last year. But I think putting that all together was very important. And I guarantee that a lot of people will rightly point to 2 very important players having good games is why the Pacers won. And that's true. That does matter. Their identity setter had his best game of the season. But to me, what will matter, and if this becomes a springboard game for the Pacers, I will point back to this game a lot. They have to actually build off of this for it to matter, was that they played 48 minutes of basketball. They did not play 30 minutes of good basketball. They did not play 40 minutes of good basketball. Not even 45 like against the Celtics, if you count overtime. They played 48, a full game where they played like themselves. They played pretty well. Everybody stepped up and contributed, and they beat a good team. They have now beaten the last year's NBA champs, last year's Western Conference champs, and the Pistons this year. Very weird win profile. They've got the Magic without Banchero coming up, then the Hornets. If they can build off of this one, this will be a game I think people point back at and go, yes, they looked like themselves that night and they ran forward. If not, which this season they have not taken advantage of their wins and gained any momentum, we'll see. But I think that was the most noteworthy thing. But boy, oh boy, do Myles Turner and Tyrese Haliburton have a lot to say about the biggest takeaway from this game. They were both fantastic. They deserve a lot of discussion, and it's coming right here. How Myles Turner had his best game, why Tyrese Haliburton was able to take off without making threes. So much more to get to on today's Locked On Pacers. Before we do that, though, we got to talk about two lovely groups of people. First up, the good folks over at Bilt. We've all been there. You're running through, burning cash with those rent checks. Walking down 8 floors of my apartment building to drop the check in the box was so frustrating. Here's the deal, though. Bilt Rewards has figured out a way to make rent more rewarding. Say goodbye to the money bonfire and hello to a renter's revolution with Bilt, who is breaking ground on a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent every month. Pay your rent and watch the Bilt points roll in. Use the points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Bilt Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Bilt points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you join Bilt.com/LockedOnNBA. That's joinBilt.com/LockedOnNBA, JOINBILT. Make sure you use our URL so they know we sent you. Join Bilt.com/LockedOnNBA to start earning with your rent payments today. We also got to talk about my favorite people, the good folks over at Game Time, the best way to get tickets to the theater, comedy, sports, whatever you're attending near you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with someone who gets rid of the crap from the process. Everything you'd want in the ticket buying process is on Game Time. They have the Game Time Picks filter that gets rid of the fluff for you. So they show you only the incredible deals on the great seats. You don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. If you want to search through thousands of tickets because you want to make sure you get exactly what you need, well, guess what? Game Time is the best place to do that. They have curated deals, super deals, seat views, so you see exactly what your view is going to be before you buy. All-in pricing, toggle add-ons. You don't have hidden fees when you get to the end. They have their lowest price guarantee. They have their Game Time ticket coverage and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. We're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Mavs. Nick Angstad at the game. What does he have to say about this one? Crazy Mavs Pacers game. These are always some high-scoring bloodbaths. You know what this felt like to me? A Pacers-Hawks game, and the Pacers have owned the Hawks. Games where the Pacers can just consistently score, even if their opponent's doing a good job scoring, the Pacers feel better about that. They're very efficient, and they were in this game, and they got it done. Every Pacers-Hawks game last year was just total chaos. The best two players on the Pacers in this game were two guys who needed one to have a good performance for their own maybe psyche. I don't want to guess their psyche, but I can imagine it felt good for both of them. And two, in this particular game, were important players, and they were awesome. And that's Myles Turner and Tyrese Haliburton. We'll start with Mr. Dallas himself, Myles Turner. People have, including me, talked about his flimsy rebounding this year. That's been a problem. His scoring has been fine, but not quite at the level anyone kind of hoped it would be this year. This game in particular is the first one where he's the only healthy center on the team. It's back in his home state. He only, air quotes, only played 33 minutes. Myles Turner completely dominated. For a guy shooting, I mean, it's been 5 games. We're talking about an incredibly small sample. He missed a game. At this moment, before this game, would have been the second lowest shooting percentage of his career. The rebounding numbers were down, and then he just totally dominated the Mavs. So a lot of the stuff I said earlier was a part of this, right? No Derek Lively. Myles Turner could spread out the Mavs bigs, but he was also shooting over the smalls in the lane. 30 points. 30 for Myles Turner. Every time he has 30, good things are happening. He was doing it from all over the floor. Pick and pop. Oh, yeah, he's shooting. He had one. This is when I knew he was confident. Third quarter, he was trailing in transition. The Mavs were kind of using the zone to gook up the Pacers, and it was kind of effective. And he came up in transition, and it wasn't a walk-up three. It wasn't like a typical big man trailing the play three. He was moving into this three. He was running up the floor. He caught it. Boom. Takes it immediately. Drilled that huge shot. Really got the Pacers back in the game and kept their rhythm going. 5 for 8 from deep for Myles Turner. Pacers hit 13 threes in this game. He had 5 of them. Only one other player hit more than one. That was Haliburton. Everybody else hit exactly one. Huge shot for Turner, who took 1/4 of the Pacers' threes. 5 free throws. Only Tyrese Haliburton took more free throws than Myles Turner in this game. The 11 rebounds were massive. Gafford's a good rebounder. Turner did a good job with him. Turner did a good job when Najee Marshall was on him. Dwight Powell did not have a rebound in his 7 minutes. Turner did a great job on the glass in this game. He really did. His defense was solid at the basket. Kyrie Irving, who still to this day is one of the few players I've heard really go over the top with his respect of Turner and how he influences drives and decision-making. That happened in this game. Kyrie would get into the paint, see Myles Turner kind of turn and shake out of it. And then Turner, of course, in the lane, 5 for 9 on his twos with some of those little turnaround shots that have been escaping him this year, right? That's something he's gotten a lot better at, that kind of leveled up his offensive firepower to me as his career progressed, was those kind of, in the paint, but not at the rim shots. Like last year, he was 56.8% from 10 to 16 feet. The year before, 61.5. Both of those numbers well above his career averages. And in the paint this year, those haven't been dropping as much. They were absolutely dropping in this game. He turns around, has that sweet little touch. Bedford zone. Myles Turner goes into Dallas and does everything. 2 poster dunks. That really changed the flow of the game. He was a monster. He was playing with force. He was playing with touch. He was hitting all the shots that make him so dynamic on offense when it's working. And the Mavs, who have bigs that can do all sorts of effective things, did not have a big who could stop all of the things that Myles Turner was doing, which is why he faced a bunch of matchups, and he was good against every single one of them. Every single one. Last year, Myles Turner's high-scoring game was against the Mavs in Indy. This year, it's against the Mavs in Dallas. Maybe it's a Mavs thing. Maybe it's a players on the Dallas roster thing. I don't know. But Myles Turner kicks those guys' butts. They can try to adjust and get at him on the pop, but we talked about it. The Pacers had 76 points in the paint. You're getting rid of a help defender for a drive. You're just giving that up. So some of this goes back to the Mavs perimeter defense. Some of this goes back to Turner's ability to score inside out, especially when he's on like this. Some of it goes back to the way the Mavs were defending. All of it led to a great Myles Turner game, a sensational Myles Turner game. He was the best player in this game, I think. Luka was really good. In fact, people are going to go, he had 34 and 15 and 7. Why are you saying Myles was better? Hey, he shot under 40% from the field, right? His defense was not good. He's not that quick on defense. Myles Turner had 30 and 11, plus 9, defended well, caused problems at the rim for the Mavs, caused problems with his offense for the Mavs. He was the best player. And I've had this take all season. Pacers have very rarely had the best player in games. I think they did in this game. They might have had the best too. Luka was really good. I feel like I'm kind of selling him short with this, but Myles was so good in a game the Pacers absolutely needed to be. You know who else was awesome? And a key takeaway from his awesomeness is also relevant here is Tyrese Haliburton. There he is. That is him, kind of. Tyrese Haliburton, excellent. 25 points, season high. 12 assists, right at his season high. Maybe he did get it. I can't remember if he had 11 or 12 earlier this week, but he was awesome. He did have 12 against Boston earlier this week. 25, his second game in the 20s this year, his first 20 and 10 game this season. That's now 4 double-doubles in a row with assists for Haliburton, who's come alive in every way but the shot. 2 for 8 from deep. That is the only bad thing that happened in this game for him. I guess the free throws were rough, too. He was 3 for 6 at the line. 10 for 16 from the field. Do some math. He's 2 for 8 from 3. 8 for 8 on twos. The Tony East special. Got to bring up Tyrese Haliburton's 2-point percentage because it was sensational in this game. And, of course, that scoring output with 25 and 12 is huge. Only 2 turnovers. He looked very Haliburton-y. He was moving well. He could get by his defender with his simple moves. He could create distance to get shots up. And his twos were really important. He had not quite, I guess you call it a dagger to put the Pacers up 7 in the final minute. He had a huge floater and one to kind of break up the Mavs rhythm in the fourth quarter. He was getting layups, crafty layups, getting by whoever was guarding him, whether it was Dinwiddie, Kyrie, Luka, whoever. He found a way to do it. It was very important that he did that. So here's what people have been saying that I think is wrong. People have said, look at that game he just had, 25 and 12. Then the next thing they say is, oh, it's because he was getting to the rim. He was attacking the rim. And while I agree that it's good that he was attacking the rim, and part of why he played well is that he was attacking the rim, that's not it to me. Because in New Orleans, he was attacking the rim against the Pelicans. The problem is what he did when he got there is he would pass out way too much. People have posted clips and screenshots of this. He would get to the basket and have maybe a tougher layup, but like he can make it. He's got good touch, and he would zip a pass. And like, that's noble. He's a good passer, but like, dude, take it. Take it. He's a good player. He's creating separation on a drive. Shoot. and he wasn't doing it as much in New Orleans. That is what was different in this game. When he got the advantage he created, sure, he passed a lot. He's a great passer. He took shots, and he made them, and he became an advantage creator. Right? He got past someone, created an advantage, which I just said, and then took advantage of it himself. And if he needed to set somebody up, he did, but that led to points for him. So to me, it's not that he was attacking the rim. I think he's been relatively good at that in all but one game this season. It's what he did when he got there that made this game much different than any other performance this season. 16 shot attempts, right? That says a lot. He took 8 against the Pelicans. That to me is the difference, is what he did with the drives, how he was attacking the rim, how he was focused on attacking the rim. So 10 for 16 with 25 points, obviously sensational game. 12 assists is huge. He was +9. Turner was +9. The Pacers won by 7. I mean, they needed everything those guys could give in this game. Huge shots from them, even late in this game. Haliburton just making it happen. His threes were big. Just looked a lot like himself outside of going 2 for 8 from deep. That is who the Pacers need. And when they have Tyrese Haliburton looking good, look at that. Their identity's there. They look like themselves for 48 minutes, and they went, and he had a dagger. And dare I say, because it wasn't stress-free. No one who watched this game and wanted the Pacers to win thought, oh, that felt great. They dominated. But that, like against Detroit, until Haliburton hit the dagger, they were up 3 in the final minute. That's a 1-possession game, right? Against the Celtics, obviously lots of dramatic moments in the final minutes and overtime, right? Even in their wins and their losses, it's all been close 1-possession games in the final minute. This one was 5, was as close as it got in the final minute. And then Haliburton, with 50 seconds to go, hit a very, very nice mid-range jumper to put the Pacers up 7. That put the game away. Very big shot for him. I believe it was, the Mavs only scored 2 points the rest of the way. So the game never got within more than that 7 inside the final minute, that 5 before he hit that shot. So it was never a 1-possession game in the final minute. The Pacers' most comfortable win, and they can thank their 2 studs, Tyrese Haliburton and Myles Turner, 2 studs from this game. But that lots of other performances that merit discussion for various reasons, largely because of what we saw from the Pacers' rotation in their new no center for now reality. So much more to discuss on Obi Toppin at the 5, Siakam's great game, Nembhard returned, and so much more on today's Locked On Pacers. Before we get to that stuff, 2 wonderful groups of people we got to talk about. First up is FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL season and get in on the NBA and NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers over on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That is on the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and the NBA all in one place. It is fantastic. When you get that hunch, it happens to all of us. It's the middle of the game. You know what's coming. You feel very good about it. Well, you can check out the latest stats from said game. You can view the live play-by-play and so much more details about the action right on the same page where you place your bets. So you can be informed about what's happening, who's doing it, when is the best time to act on your hunch. All right there on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's also talk about the good people over at HIMS. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously. We always want to be ready so we can perform. Well, HIMS provides access to treatments that can help you last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready whenever the mood strikes. HIMS is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. HIMS provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for an uncomfortable doctor's visit. You just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. And if prescribed, it ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. So with hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, HIMS can help you find the ED option that works for you. So start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockdown. That's HIMS.com/lockdown for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockdown. And we're back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen, Locked On Women's Basketball. Stephanie White's the Fever coach. I'm not sure they'll talk about that tomorrow, but it certainly will come up this week. And college basketball is rolling on the women's side. Shout out to the Hoosiers. Good win in their opener, and all sorts of previews by conference and team on Locked On Women's Basketball. It's been very helpful for me personally to get ready for the women's college season. Let's finish up today with some role player stuff, some center rotation stuff that was relevant to the Pacers in their win over the Dallas Mavericks. And I think the most important thing that I need to say to start this is Andrew Nembhard played, and that matters for lots of reasons related to centers and rotations and all sorts of stuff. Andrew Nembhard returned after a kind of 2-game absence, kind of 1.9 game absence. He played 5 minutes against the Celtics. What matters there is, I talked about this after the Pelicans game on that podcast that came out Saturday, is that if Nembhard couldn't go, right, Nesmith didn't play. I forget who tweeted that he was in a boot or saw him in a boot. So we'll see about his return timeline. But Nesmith didn't play, obviously. No Jackson, no Wiseman. So they're down 3 guys of their, already 17. Tristan Newton's with the Mad Ants. That's 4, right? They're getting close to, territory, because they have James Johnson and Johnny Furphy and Enrique Freeman and Quentin Jackson. Like, those guys they can help. Enrique Freeman helped in Detroit. Quentin Jackson's got some burst, but you don't want to play them. They are developing projects for a reason, or in James Johnson case, a vet. They're not guys you hope contribute every night. Well, if Nembhard didn't return in this game, they would have needed one, right? Mathurin, Siakam, Turner, Haliburton, Toppin, McConnell, Shepard, and Walker all healthy. That's 8. And you can play 8, and maybe they would have just played 8. But if they didn't have Andrew Nembhard, they probably would have needed to play maybe 6 to 10 minutes of Enrique Freeman. Maybe they would have just gone Johnny Furphy for 6 to 10 minutes to sneak out a rotation and not, run guys in the ground. They still relied on 2. There's 2 stars for over 35 minutes. And everyone who played 15 minutes or more, except for Jarris Walker, who played 14, 18. So basically that, right? Instead, Nembhard did return. He was able to go. Important defense on Kyrie, who was 11 for 21. And 4 for 9 for Andrew Nembhard on his way to 11 points and 3 assists and 0 turnovers, which was important for him given the context of his season. So far, he played pretty well in his return. That settled in. The top 9 for the Pacers, the guys I just said a minute ago, plus Nembhard, that worked. That was a fine 9-man rotation. The Pacers can get by with this, even if they don't add a center or if they just add one for emergency purposes. But it still showed they have some weaknesses, especially with rim protection. Toppin works pretty well. He played with Siakam quite a bit. He played with other combos, but mostly it was Toppin plus a forward when Turner wasn't out there. In fact, I think when Turner wasn't out there, Toppin always was at the 5 in this game. That doesn't mean he only played the 5. He played with Turner sometimes, but Toppin, he's going to score on guys. He had 11 points and 6 boards. He had flashy finishes. He started really slow. He was not very good in the first half of this game. In the second half, he was much, much better. So if he's going to be the backup 5, I maintain that defense will be the biggest concern for the Pacers. His offense is fine. He can shoot it well. He's been ripping corner threes this year. He's catching and getting them up if he's even kind of open from the corners. And of course, his athleticism is otherworldly. He can get up and finish around or through anybody. I am confident that at any position, really 3 through 5, Obi Toppin could have a positive offensive impact. At the 5 defensively is where the struggles with him could come. And in this game, there wasn't a lot that would shake anyone off of that confidence. He'll just needed a little bit more, right? When he was in the rotation pattern he had previously, he was getting 18 to 20 minutes. Whenever Siakam wasn't in there, he could sneak in there, with Siakam sometimes or with various centers. And, TJ McConnell played 20 minutes in this game. That's usually what Toppin's rotation is. He was at 24 this time around. And that was a game where Turner was sensational and Siakam was really good. And there was no foul trouble for either of those guys. So you could probably expect Toppin to be closer to 25, 26, 27 in this current role that they have him in if they don't add another center that they need to rely on. So I thought it was fine. I still think they can get by with this and this 9 in particular. When Nesmith's back, that's 10. That's even better in theory, right? But they're gonna, if their biggest issue is gonna be defense, that should be a priority for the center they sign, right? Someone who can say, hey, if Toppin can't guard this center or he can't contribute in a meaningful way defensively against this team, let's play this guy that we just signed for 5 to 10 minutes tonight. Maybe that will be better, right? I think we kind of knew that already, but in the first game they had to turn to it, and I thought Toppin was fine. They learned that even more. But really all the role players did something, right? Jarris Walker hit a 3, Ben Shepard defended his butt off, McConnell getting to the rim and providing energy. Just every game is so important. TJ McConnell had a beautiful steal on Kyrie Irving. People talk about reach-ins being a foul. He reached how you reach to not foul. Perfectly ahead, so it wasn't reaching a across his body. It was like a head toward the ball. Perfect steal. Pacers actually got a foul called on them, but won a challenge. That was really impressive. Again, Toppin had a nice offensive game. Nembhard had a nice defensive game. Ben Mathurin, second half. I hate to bury it this far into the podcast. Was so good. I mean, it really helped them close this one out. I don't think his first half was particularly good, but he kind of got in with the bench group a little more in the third quarter. Second half, Ben Mathurin, 11, 6, and 3 on 5 for 8 shooting. Huge three that was basically the dagger for the Pacers. After a slower first half, that was absolutely critical. Pacers shot 64% in the second half, despite not being awesome on threes. They were really good as a team, and Mathurin came alive late to get it done. He's been a killer all fourth quarter, every fourth quarter that he gets on the floor. So role players stepped up. We learned a lot about the rotation, and with Nembhard back, this 9 can do it. I still think they'd probably like to have a 10th of a center. We'll see what the Pacers decide to do. They did, in fact, win in their new reality of injuries. If you want more on that, Eddie Garrison and I talked about it yesterday, all about Isaiah Jackson's injury and what the Pacers probably need to do now. Tomorrow, Ethan Krieger is going to join us, talk about the first 2 weeks. Somehow, yes, 2 weeks of the Indiana Pacers season, the good, the bad, what they can do better. Can they get back on track this week? Then we'll talk some Magic and some Hornets as this week progresses. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. You can follow me on Twitter at Tony R. East. This podcast is on there at Locked On Pacers, where you can see every day's episodes and a short on a key topic from that day. Going to try to mix in some more tweets with some graphics and fun stuff on that account. So definitely worth a follow. Thank you guys for tuning in today. See you very soon. Till then, everybody have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday.